Hello and welcome everybody to this afternoon's investor Q&A with Philter Brewing. And we've got Mick and Steph here with us. My name is Temin. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal, and I'm so excited to be here with Mick and Steph from Philter, one of Australia's most loved and awarded craft breweries. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I'm meeting to you today. So Birchal is based on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nation, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. As the licensed intermediary for the offer, Birchal Financial Services is working with Philter Brewing on their upcoming crowdsourced funding offer. So, what is crowdsourced funding, or CSF, you may ask? Crowdsourced funding, or as you may know, equity crowdfunding, is a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia that allows startups and small businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller or retail investors and wholesale and sophisticated investors as well through an online platform such as Birchal. Instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can turn to the general public, often their communities, which we know for Philter is incredibly strong, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. This is a very exciting opportunity for all. So the information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. There's plenty more information over at birchal.com if you want to dig a little deeper. So how today's session is going to run, Mick and Steph are going to take us through a fabulous presentation, which will go for about 15 to 20 minutes, all about Philter Brewing, where they've come from, from their backyard as childhood friends, and then, where they're going, what they're looking to do with the capital raise. And then we'll switch to the Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little box that says Q&A, a little bubble there. So if you have any questions during today's session, please pop them in the box as we go along, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer all of these questions. And this session will be recorded, so if you do need to jump off at any time, the recording will be sent around afterwards, and it will be up on the Birchal company profile as well. So without further ado, over to you, Mick and Steph. Take us away.
Thanks, Temin.
Thank you, Temin.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, everyone, to Philter. Here we are in Marrickville, and I'm Mick.
I'm Steph.
So we're really excited about this this evening and this webinar tonight. We've had an overwhelming response to the EOI phase of this campaign, and we're super excited, right, Steph?
Yeah, it's a little bit humbling, I think. So thank you for everyone for jumping on board tonight and just putting your interest in. It's like Mick said, it's been completely overwhelming how many people have expressed interest in the campaign, and we're super pumped to share where we want to go with Philter.
Yep, but as always, it's important to start with the beginning. And
before you get into that, it's probably more important for you to crack your first beer right about now, because that's pretty important as well. So hopefully it's a Philter.
Which here's the Philter.
Yeah, cheers everyone. So I guess for those of you that don't know and how we started, I guess this is a great point to kind of share. So Mick and I are neighbours for Marrickville. We live literally opposite each other, opposite side of the road, and that's where I think the start of the friendship happened. That was around about 11 years ago.
Yeah,
or so.
11 years. Yep.
And we were just fortunate. I think our kids went to the same school. Our wives are friends. So I think it was after one too many beers at the Golden Barley Hotel. If you're a local here in Sydney, you'll probably know where that is, right near where we live. And it's I think after a few too many beers, we thought we should start a brewery. And went back to the house and told the wives that we're about to start a craft brewery, and they laughed at us a little bit.
Yeah. That was not the first time we said it either. So, but
it's the most serious time. But
it was fortunate that we did meet that way, and the funny thing about the relationship with Steph and I, we always enjoyed beer before, and we happened to live within stone's throw of everything that was happening in the inner west of Sydney in terms of beer. So Young Henry's had started maybe 3 or 4 years before that time, but we started even longer batch.
Yep.
Rifter. They all started in the local neighbourhood, and they were great inspiration for us to have a crack, so to speak. So yeah, here we are today. So let's maybe, Temin, if we can move over to the presentation, we can take the guys through.
Absolutely, yeah. Take us away.
All right, so I think where we kind of will take you through today, we're going to take you a little bit about, about us and that story. We'll elaborate a little bit further on it, a little bit about the history as well. So, how we've become who we are, our traction today. So some of our numbers we'll share with you, our investment, strategies moving forward, introduce you to the team, because I think that's a really vital point and a key to how we've become who we are today and how we're going to move forward with the right people in place. And then we'll pass it over to you guys for all your questions. So yeah, we talked a little bit about the start of the brewery. The concept and the idea. That was around 2016. We started dreaming up Philter. One key part of that was actually the brand and the business plan development. And shortly after building that together, we partnered with Simon Quinn, who's the other founder of the business. He came on and applied his expertise. You'll learn more about Simon later, but applied his expertise into the business plan. And after a few months, we got going. So the other part is we obviously needed to make beer. Steph was a very qualified home brewer, extremely qualified, but not qualified enough to run a commercial brewery.
Yeah, so that led us to finding a brewer, and that's where we found Samara Fuss, who's with was joined with the business from the start. It was all about then developing that first beer for us, and that really took us to a lot of development stage. But we always knew that we wanted Philter to be a very accessible brand and all about beer that was sessionable beer, what we enjoyed drinking as friends. And we saw a real opportunity to bring a nostalgic brand ethic to modern beer in Australia. So that's where we looked at the pale ale category, and that's where we looked at our XBA as that first beer that we built. So and just taking a quick step back, because I think we forgot to kind of mention where we come from. So my background has always been in beer. I worked for Lion for a long time in numerous roles across sales, marketing, category roles, and also did a couple of years at Beam Suntory, working on Jim Beam, Canadian Club, some of the premium bourbon brands. But so I've always had a passion for this category, and hence why I want to keep working in this category for the rest of my life. I did a very quick stint with Goodman Fielder in mayonnaise, and that was enough to inspire me never to go there again and continue to work on the good stuff. Yeah, and I have a background in brands, but primarily in the surf and action sports industry. Originally, for 8 years, I was in global and domestic roles with O'Neill's wetsuits, which I'm sure some of you know, and that led me all around the world. So I did stints in the States, stints in Europe, a long stint in Europe, actually 7 years, and I really got to understand the global market, and then came back into Australia for a head of Asia Pacific role, which I was 5-6 years in that role up until we really started Philter. So my background is as a generalist. I was a general manager, managing director in my last role. So I'm basically applying that core competencies into this business. Yeah. So so Mick was mentioning how we came up with Philter in the XBA, and I guess our ethos is now on the screen. We really saw a niche for simplicity in this market, and it is as simple as it is: quality ingredients, great beer,
and no bull, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure I can say bullshit on this forum, so I'm going to say it. That's our ethos to what we do. Very much simple. We just wanted really great quality tasting beer, but something you didn't have to feel embarrassed to take out at a friend's house, or something was a little bit too fancy on the label. So really simple, easy to find on shelf. We were very fortunate with our with the XBA to come across. Obviously, Mick mentioned pale ale being 75%, I think, of the total craft beer market at that point when we started. So we really wanted a great pale ale. And the first time how we came to where the XBA landed was we did a blind tasting with Sam and our wives, and we kind of brought all our favourite pale ales to the market. We literally did blind tasting of all of them, and we had 3 favourites, which I think I'll save that as a secret when you invest in Philter, potentially, about what those 3 beers were. So our XBA is a love trial of those 3, obviously taking the great elements that we thought out of that and bringing in Sam's experience to come up with what we really are very passionate is what we think is the best tasting beer on the market in our XBA. In terms of design, you might want to share a bit on that.
Yeah, the design of the can was something we worked on quite hard, and we actually looked to a real respected designer in the Sydney market anyway, but now the Australian market, to help us with that packaging design. And we really wanted to look at nostalgic Australian design, and particularly in the alcohol and cigarette segment, but that just classic design that most of us have grown up with here in Australia, and apply that into a new modern packaging that looks cool and has those nostalgic references. But ultimately the beer was spot on and really, really tasty and sessionable.
Yeah, and it's our can was always designed to stand out on shelf, so it had to have that little element of being slightly polarizing. A key stat for my old days back in category was that the regular consumer, or the consumer in a bottle shop, normally has around about 30 seconds on average from when they get in the front door to when they get out. So you really don't have a lot of time to disrupt someone or for them to find your product on shelf. And you can imagine, you guys know more than us, just how many craft beers there are on shelf. So if you can't find what you want, it's very easy to look for something else. So we really wanted a product that would stand out on shelf. And that's, part of our design ethic of why we went with the stripe.
So our core values, this is something that really came together after we'd established. So in 2017, it was a bit of a crazy ride in that first year. We went from launching the brand, we were still all working full-time jobs, to, after about 3 months, winning a major award with that beer. So it all happened very, very quickly, and we quickly came up with what we felt were clear values for us, which are on this page here, which we wanted to be proudly Australian and independent. We wanted to make great fucking beer. And we were all about keeping it simple. So you'll notice a lot of our beers don't have fancy names. They're not overdeveloped. We like to look at a beer style we like as a group, and we like to do the best execution in a filter way of that beer. So it's very important that, on the label it does what it says. And then we wanted to be socially responsible to our community. And we're striving to do that in a lot of different ways through the business.
A filter. What is a filter? A lot of people ask this. So you guys are in for a treat tonight because we're letting you in on a little secret. So a filter was a potion or charm created with magical powers to try to seduce someone. So it's a medieval love potion. So our interpretation of a filter was, we put all this love and effort into the beer, and we just want you to fall in love with it. A lot of people, despite what they think, there's not a bloke named Phil that works in the business. Philter is that medieval love potion, and hence where the next part comes in, which is our very seductive tagline. Seductively beer, again, ties into that, the meaning of Philter.
So again, it's like coming back to our values, and it's keeping it simple, but it's also fun. We think beer is about fun. It's one of the only beverages you can have at any occasion, and people still have it. And I'm sure you can think of the best occasion to the worst occasion, and at some point you're going to drink a beer. So for us, beer is about fun. So hence not taking ourselves too seriously.
Mick alluded to it. I think we were very surprised. I think that's the easiest way to put it. When after only 3 months in at the Craft Beer Awards, which is now the Indies, we took out the champion pale ale. I know Mick was there with Sam, and a lot of people were like, "Who? What? Who are these guys?" Yeah. It was. I remember Sam actually saying, "I don't want to put it in. It's too early." I was like, "Please!" My sales hat was on, going, "Please put it in, because if we win this bloody thing, that's sensational. My job's a lot easier." But yeah, it was a great surprise for us to walk home with that award, and just from that really started, I think, the momentum behind the brand. We were very fortunate to. That's that first one. And then we followed up at the AVA Awards, where we took out the best champion pale again.
Yeah, and the AVA, just so if some of you may know, but it's the Australian International Beer Awards that happens in Melbourne every year. It's the second biggest beer awards, international beer awards in the world.
Yep.
So it's a big deal to win there. You get not only domestic and the main, the larger beer brands coming in, but you also get a lot of international players coming in and submitting to this.
It's really prestigious, and for us, we really use it as a benchmark of where we sit from a quality perspective, and it's something we really like to celebrate, particularly internally, because it's a culmination of, I think, of all the hard work that goes into the recipe creations, the quality. Every little part of this brew house that we have here at Marrickville goes into winning these awards. So it's something we're really proud of, and we'll go into a bit more detail later on some of those awards. But it really did start that momentum with the XBA, and that kind of set ourselves up, I think, to be where we are today.
Yep, absolutely. So the brewery, after about 24 months of Gypsy Brewing, which for some of you that don't know, Gypsy Brewing is basically where you apply your own recipe to a contract brewer, and they brew it for you at a co-pack cost, which basically means that you have to find the best possible brewers in Australia to brew your beer. We did that for 24 months with some really well-established contract brewers. We particularly went for the best we could find, but before too long, it became very apparent we needed to build our own brewery. But with the growth we had, the brewery size kept growing with every month. We went through 2017 and 18 with aspiration, and by 2019 we secured a location in Marrickville that we were really happy with, which is the location we're at now. It's an old yogurt factory which we turned into a brewery. When we got the keys, there were leaks in the roof, there was rats on the floor. No one had been in here for 7 years. But we managed to turn it around and get rid of the rats and fix the leaks.
Took out 200 tonne of rubble.
It took out a lot of rubble, and ultimately built what we have today in Marrickville. We also did that via the traditional route of getting lending from the bank. So we formed a bank partnership by that point, and we got the lending over all the equipment and the renovation, and that'll all become that information will become available in the offer documents down the line, so you'll be able to see that.
We did have one little snag, unfortunately, with a little thing called COVID hit. I think that started just kind of as we were in the build phase, and that kind of threw a couple of spanners into the work. But I think the resilience that we all showed as a team, we all stayed together. We had pretty much a lot of our team doing labouring work, and you know, I poured my first slab of concrete. That was fun. I was never allowed to do it again. But all these skills that we learned to do ourselves, because obviously money was quite tight during that period.
And it was so much uncertainty.
And also, so we didn't have to stay at home. We could actually come here and work.
Yeah,
that was great.
But the long and short of it is, in July 2020, we opened the brewery.
Yeah.
And we started making our own beer. And the greatest thing about that is we finally had a taste of what it really feels like to, one, run your own production facility, but two, just take control of your own future.
Yep.
And it was super exciting, and we were all anxious, but fortunately we employed a really good team of people and we had good people in the team to take us to the next level. And over the years, we built a really solid team to operate the business.
Yeah, so the brewery and the bar opened, which was great news. It was great to have people. I'm sure there's people on the call now. You know, we can't thank you guys enough for coming in and supporting us during those early times. You know, you guys have helped us shape what this venue is today. And we were very lucky then a couple of years, or it was about 18 months later, to have the opportunity to open another bar upstairs, which was Marrickville Springs.
That was after COVID too.
After COVID too. Yeah, we kind of, and if you've come here and if you've seen what we've tried to create, again, it really goes back to those core values, keeping it simple and staying true to what we believe in as a brand. If you've been downstairs here in the brewery where we sit now, obviously to our right, you've got all the tanks, you've got everything exposed. If you want to be, come and have a look and see the exact process of brewing, it's available. But we also wanted this to be an old school pub style environment. So we're very fortunate to inherit some really great old bits of furniture and equipment, like this old bar top, which came from one of the oldest bars in Sydney, which is sensational. Great little bit of history in this.
Bit of iron bar.
Yeah, so, and then upstairs, we wanted to create a completely new and different space in Marrickville Springs. So inspired by Palm Springs, very different. It's a rooftop bar, a fully retractable roof, really great for functions.
And a little bit of paradise in industrial Marrickville.
Yeah.
But look, the main, I think another thing to just top on there, that brewery expansion was a significant investment for us. But what we got out of it is a state-of-the-art Premier Stainless, which is a US brewery making company. They built our brewery over in the US and assembled it over in the US. We brought it over here. It's a 25 hectolitre brew house. For any of you wondering how much that is, 2,500 litre brew house. It's got 4 vessels and it's fully automated, so we only need one person to operate it at any one time. And it's a beautiful machine. And then we also invested in a Cody canning line to produce our packaged items, keg machine from Comac, an Italian company, and then about 1 million litres worth of stainless steel to brew the beer in that first period. After COVID finished, we actually ran out of capacity pretty quickly.
I think it was about 3 months after we kind of opened, we kind of started to run out of capacity.
And it wasn't truly because of an undecided forecast. It was just truly because of the base. During COVID, packaged beer went through the roof. And then after COVID, keg beer went through the roof, and both of them stayed up for a while. So it was also leading into Christmas, which is the busiest time for any retail and wholesale business.
So yeah, we did turn back on some contract brewing during that period, but we've been very fortunate the last part of the year here last part of last year, we made some more significant upgrades to equipment and the foundations here in the building to allow us to grow back into that new stage. And grow the capacity of the brewery, which we always built the brew house in order to achieve that. So we'll share some of that detail.
Absolutely. So the next piece is about product, right? So what do we sell? The beer is what we sell, obviously, and we talked a lot about the XBA, but what you see in front of you is our core range of beers, and there's some beers that have been around since 2017, like the Red Session Ale. which is still an old faithful and really a beer we can't do without because we've got a really strong following in that beer, right through to our super cool lager, which we just released in can earlier this year, and that thing is doing great. It's a Japanese style lager. Really, lagers are on the move at the moment, especially when people are refining their tastes and their wallets. But it's needless to say, this is 80%, 90% of our beer sales through these SKUs. We of course have limited edition beers, but we are a business based on a strong core range of beers that people can rely that they're never out of stock and they're always available.
Yeah, and then so just on our product mix here too as well, I think Mick's about to bring it up. So our XBA obviously being our strongest product, and it actually makes up, I think it's 75%, hang on, 75% of our total product mix. So just to share with you guys, you know, the importance of, you know, the extra pale ale in our category, it's still our, you know, our driver of growth. Just touching, before we touched on some of our awards, we've got a lot of them behind us. We've been very fortunate, like I said, with the XBA to take away 3 major trophies on that particular beer. We're also really chuffed at this year's ABA Awards. We took home not 1 but 2 Consistency of Excellence Awards. They're a really rare award to get in this industry. This year, they awarded the most amount they've ever awarded at the ABAs, which was 6 awards in the Consistency of Excellence. And we took home 2 of those with the XBA and the double IPA. So I think it really shows.
And what that means, the consist is for 3 years in a row, we won a gold medal for that beer.
Yep. So it's a really great, again, that's something that we're so proud of our brewery team and the quality team for producing the beers at that level and that quality and that consistency. Because in this game, consistency is so important. If you get a bad experience with one of our beers, it's really easy to jump to something else. So it's something we put a lot of importance on. We've won a couple of other awards. Took out the Raspberry Pash, took out a champion at the Indies. The double IPA took out Champion India Award last year. This year we took out the Haze at the ABAs, which we were super chuffed with. And then very recently, actually so recently, so it was actually during the process of kicking this off, we were absolutely chuffed at this year's Indies to take home the Champion New South Wales Brewery Award. And that's for a culmination of all your results for us to be the best brewery in New South Wales. So that's something, again, we're really proud of. And I think, you know, for you guys, hopefully that shows, again, the quality and consistency that we put into the beer day in, day out.
Yep. So let's get on to the nitty-gritty, shall we?
Yes.
So this is an overview of the last, well, basically the business development since inception. So there's an overview there in each financial year. Given that, just so you're aware, FY17 was only 4 months of sales. So
yeah, we started around about April, wasn't it?
Yeah, March, April. We sold our first package, and
we work off financial year calendars, so July to June, so everyone's aware.
So you can see that trajectory in the first 3 years was really high. It was on fire, and to be honest, we had to say no to a lot of opportunities. We did partner quite early with Endeavour Group, which is Dan Murphy's and BWS. In the first year, they came to us, and we kind of approached them, and then they came to us and said, we really want to work with you. So we built a really strong business and got our brand out there quite quickly, because they are over 50% of the bottle shop market in Australia. And then around 2020, I think we all know what happened in that period. COVID hit, and we also had the fires in New South Wales and Victoria. By that point, we were distributing to Melbourne, and we were also distributing up to Brisbane, to Queensland.
So although it looks pretty flat, I mean, we were really chuffed in that year because a lot of friends of ours had a lot worse years than that and went backwards. So for us to still grow over that period, I think it's a great achievement to our entire team for, you know, putting in the hard effort and continuing to grow in what was a really tough year.
Yeah, absolutely, Steph. So the other piece that came into play, which we mentioned before, is we actually opened the brewery. So we changed from a gypsy brewing model to a full top to bottom brewery model, which changed a lot in terms of our cash flow and profitability.
Meant a lot for our staff too, because I think before that there was about 5 of us. So
yeah, exactly. We went from literally 5 or 6 staff to about 15 overnight, right?
Yeah.
It was really quick. Obviously you need people to make beer, so we weren't doing that as much before. So then in FY21 and FY22, we really started to grow the business, and in the next slide we'll show you where we got to there. Right up to FY23, we're 1.2 million litres in volume and around 8.5 million in sales.
And yeah, the next slide just goes into a little bit more detail. And in the dark blue, you've got our wholesale business, which is obviously what we sell to pubs and bottle shops. And then in the light blue, that's when the retail, so the bar behind us came into operation, and the online store, etc. You know, to a smaller degree came in, and kind of that's where you can see those growth numbers coming through, really strong as well.
And needless to say, the business model that you'll see further in this deck, but more in the offer document, is that the retail part of the business, or the hospitality side, if done right and with the right emphasis and the good people, it's a really profitable side of the business, because we're making the beer here and we literally pour it there. So we don't have to touch it too many times, and needless to say, it helps keep the lights on week to week, and we plan to utilise and grow that part of the business quite significantly with this investment round. Yep.
Our business model. Steph, if you want to. Yeah, so there's, you know, we put into the 4 key bucket areas. You know, our wholesale side of the business, which we've mentioned, you know, we're really chuffed with, I think, the progress we've made to date. We are at the moment, just in terms of our distribution, we really are mainly just on the east coast of New South Wales. We haven't really touched anything over in WA, South Australia, and in all fairness, even Queensland and Victoria, we really we've only kind of dipped our toes in those territories. Really great opportunities for us to grow the brand in those locations, and in Sydney and New South Wales. And we've always had such a small sales force in the past, and the opportunity now, you know, with a raise like this for us to be able to go out in our own backyard and to really start to spruik around and get our brand into a lot more hands is the opportunity we're really looking for with the wholesale side.
So yeah, just to summarise that, it's the whole wholesale business is sales to independents. It's sales to independent pubs, bars, bottle shops, clubs, restaurants. It's also sales to wholesalers. So wholesalers are basically companies that buy from us in bulk, and they then distribute it on to their customers.
Yep.
And then to national chains like EDG or Endeavour Group and Coles Liquor.
Liquorland, Dan Murphy's, BWS,
yeah,
First Choice, those group of accounts.
Then the hospitality piece is, as we showed in the previous slide, revenues from our hospitality operations here in Marrickville. There's the online store, which is the direct-to-consumer sales through our website. Hospitality sales also, and online also, includes merchandise. You know, we've got a great little merchandise offering that people love, and it's also a nice little part of the business. And then the one we're looking to in the future, we've had a lot of inquiries, but again, it's a capacity-driven decision that we have the opportunity to export. And there's a number of countries also, connections that I have from my past, that we have the opportunity to move into Southeast Asia and Asia. But it's one of those things that we basically got to sacrifice something locally to send it over, and it's a lot more cost effective to service the local market.
But it's definitely an area that I think we want to look at and explore. And as we can grow, and with the investment that you guys are helping us, it is something that we can look at, trying to unlock some opportunities overseas. Just in terms of, you know, where we sell to, again, I won't dwell too much, but it kind of gives you the indication of where we are located. And like I said, I think I mentioned it before, really strong in New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, we have presence. There's a lot of work there to be done to help unlock that. And we're very strong in the majors, particularly in our New South Wales home state. We're in the majority of stores that are available to us with the major retailers like Dan's, BWS, Vintage Cellars, Lipland, and First Choice.
So what do we want to do moving forward? And this is probably a massive question for all of you. So our main focus in this raise is to look at increasing the capacity of the business. We've got a brewery here that has the ability to scale from the 1.3 million litres of capacity we have now to 2.5 million litres with a real stretch. So we want to be able to have the funds available to take those opportunities on a step-by-step basis. We also want to run more efficiency through the business. We have a canning line here, which we'd like to upgrade. And what that will enable us to do is, one, be a lot more friendly from a sustainability point of view, but then also have a business which is more efficient and drives more yield into our operations, so there's less wastage in a number of different areas. And that will all help us drive growth into wholesale.
Yeah.
The wholesale business is such a large part of it. We have a really good stretch. We want to get the beer out to more people out there. And by doing that, we need the capacity to do it ourselves and make it sustainable for the long run.
And the great news out of that is, like I said, kind of alluded to before, we've actually set ourselves up in this brewery here in Marrickville to help us get that 2.5 million litres here, that's great. The capacity is there to enable to allow us to do that. Don't have to go and find a new site. We don't have to worry about, trying to figure out a new brew house, none of that. It's right here in front of us, ready to unlock. We've just added more equipment in order to achieve that.
And more tank space.
Yep.
The other piece that's strong, I mentioned wholesale distribution growth. That's a key part of it. There are opportunities for us to grow that more, and we recognise them, and we see that as part of our business plan, which more detail is in the offer document. But the other piece that is really key to this is expanding our hospitality footprint. The retail dollars that we get over the counter here are fantastic for the business, and they're really healthy. We want to first, straight away, we're actually moving the bar here at Marrickville into next door, where we can fit another 80 people, 80 packs in a space, and introduce a new concept here, which will drive a significant number of retail dollars into this location. And then we're also on the hunt for new locations. So we're really interested in taking our Philter hospitality concept and bar concept to different locations, and really taking our brand to different locations strategically, which makes sense for the brand and can really elevate not only the brand itself, but also retail dollars.
Yeah. We're really fortunate with next door too, like Mick said, we actually already secured that site. That was part of our upgrade to the brewery last year. So we're really fortunate to already have the site. It's just really, doing a really good job with fitting it out and getting it ready and open for you guys to come and have a look at.
Yep, absolutely. And then the final bit is people, and not so much people, but we have really good people in this business. But to enable us to get to the targets we want to get to, we need to expand our workforce, particularly in sales and service, because what we've learned over the years is it's not just making the sale, it's actually how you follow up and back up those sales and provide good quality service. And that what wins retention with customers, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big focus of ours, and it's a small portion of where we want to invest in the scheme of things. It's far more into the capital outlay of new equipment and expanding our hospitality. But it's important to mention that you can't grow a business without actually investing in key areas.
Yeah, and there's key things like even system upgrades and support systems to put in place that just make our job easier and our customers' jobs a lot easier as well. So there's a lot of things that we really like to investigate to kind of make the process a lot smoother And again, like we said, we just want everyone to have that great experience, which, we project on the people, but if we can make it even easier for them, fantastic.
Yep, absolutely. So a bit about the founders.
I think we already covered it.
We kind of already covered it.
Did you get my fancy photo?
Yeah. So Simon's over there on the right. Simon's still involved in the business quite regularly. He's advisor to the business, and he's still involved from a really strategic decision making point of view.
And Simon's background, just for all you guys out there, so he's been in property and development for I think his whole career. He's built and owned a lot of pubs in Sydney and venues in Sydney, and a lot of that expertise. When you look around this facility, you're looking at Simon and his great ideas. And without him, these spaces just don't exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So enough about us, and on to the management team and the leadership team. So Alec, who's actually here in the room, so he's here to help support us on any of the Q&A. But Alec's been with us since actually we built the brewery. Shortly after we finished the brewery, Alec joined us, and he's got a really strong background in financial and accounting practices for not only this business but previous businesses of an SME size, and also larger, one of the bigger ones with Deloitte. Alec's a really lovely guy, but basically make sure everything's done in check here in the business. Max, who's our current head brewer. So Max has been with us since I think nearly 2 years now.
Maybe a little longer, yeah.
A little bit longer.
So he did some tutelage under Sam, which was great.
Max's background is actually fantastic. Asset for us. He studied at the Weinstefan University in Bavaria. He's German, obviously. But Max, he's been here for 8 years. But Weinstefan is, in case none of you know, it's a university of beer. It's a real deal when guys and girls go there to study.
It's the Harvard of beer.
Yes, exactly. So Max is, he's been on with the brand. He stepped into the head brewer role last year. And from there we've got, and you'll see in the offer document, the full lineage of brewers we have. But so it's a really solid brew team that's led by Max. Then we got Pete Rundle. Pete's been with us for nearly just on 3 years now. So he's hit his important milestone in this business. And Peter has experience running some large pubs in Sydney, and as our venue manager, and is a great operator, really swift, really efficient, and has managed to grow our venue business to the numbers you saw before over the last 12 to 18 months.
I think it's something we're really proud of. If you jump on Google and you look at our reviews and just the feedback we receive, it's always so positive. And that is down to Pete and the team that he runs here in the brewery. I think we're extremely lucky to have him on.
Yep, absolutely. And then finally, Sam, maybe you want to mention.
Yeah, so Sam Johnson came on just over a year ago to look after our national accounts. And our national accounts being, our Coles, our EDG customers, our Endeavour customers, which is your Dan's again, your BWS's, the Liquorlands. And it really is a specialty role in this business. It's such an important part of the business. So to have a dedicated person like Sam on board has been a breath of fresh air.
And Sam's got just as much experience, if not more than us, in the industry.
15 years plus working in some pretty big brands. And he came for us, I think his last one was at Young Henry's. He's done stints at Coca-Cola in the past. And that experience is coming through with helping us set up a really great promotional activity and setting ourselves up for success in terms of additional ranging and longer-term success with our key customers.
Yeah. So the details of our total organisation plan will be in the offer document.
I think it's also on the Birchal page too, if you go on there.
Yeah, there is details, you're right.
Yeah, you can jump on and have a look and see our smiley faces.
Finally, but not least, is Chris Dalton. Chris has been our legal advisor since day one. So Chris has got he's got a very, very successful practice in Sydney. and is now a non-executive director for the business. So helps us with important decisions where we need it at a board level. So very important to have a solid legal advisor in the business.
Yep, definitely.
And that's about it with that, I guess, little
The spiel
and tips to you guys. I think it's important to understand that there'll be a lot more information for you coming up, but the most important thing is we're super excited about this and having you guys come on board as investors. We're really, we're really encouraged by some of the feedback we've heard from other breweries and other businesses that have raised money through crowdfund. And the biggest side that's important and we find really interesting is the community side, right? Like giving back to all you guys that have helped us get to where we are. Without you guys supporting us and buying our beer, coming into the brewery, going into the pub and being dedicated to our Philter XBA or our Red or any of our beers, we wouldn't have this business. So this is a real opportunity for you guys to get involved.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Such a fantastic presentation. That was just awesome. We might head over to the Q&A now, as we've just had so many questions come through. And please continue, guys, throwing your questions into that Q&A box down the bottom. We may not have time to get through all of them today, as there are so many, but I've tried to cover off a few of them and trying to group them together. So kicking us off, I would love to know personally, who broached the initial conversation about starting a brewery? Who took that lead, and what beer were you drinking at the time?
I think it really was pretty common ground, to be honest, because I think we were talking about another business opportunity at the Golden Barley at that particular meeting we had.
Yeah.
And it kind of just came up in conversation, I think, just saying, what about a brewery? And we just were talking about it. And that's really how it started. It's as simple of a thing like, hey, look, what about a brewery?
And I think that initial concept of Philter, not the name because we hadn't thought of that yet, but the concept of what we described to you was already there in that discussion.
I think it would have been a jug deal that we were probably drinking at the time. I think it would have been either Young Henry's or Lady Coopers. I think it was the jug deal on a Saturday. So, not 100% sure.
But it was fairly mutual, and I think the hardest thing was going home to the wives and telling them what we dreamed up after 7 or 8 beers.
I was doing a couple of bottles of rosé down too, so let's say.
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a good story. What I would love to know as well is why equity crowdfunding over any other source of capital raising, and such as traditional methods?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So for us, and I think Nick touched on it just at the end too, the opportunity to give back part of our company to the community was really important for us. When you look at other ways we could have raised through private investment, we also didn't want someone to come in and really take over our business either. That was something we didn't want, like one or a group of people just going in and going, okay, we're here now, and okay, no, you're not doing that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, or ultimately to sell out or something like that. That's not the intention. We love doing what we do. And for us to keep that control, we've been the same group that we've had since day one. This is the first time we've ever gone to market with with taking an investment on board. So it's, for us, going back to the community was what really appealed to us about, Birchal and the crowdfunding process. Yeah, because we could actually give ownership to our friends and to people who drink our product and people who know about this industry and this community, and was the massive tick for us.
The other thing as well is, the other traditional way that we'd already explored and succeeded in was lending.
Yeah.
And given, that we've already invested a lot and we have a great banking partnership, where we felt it was time for us to look to raise capital in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
No, awesome. Thank you. And now a little bit about your company. How committed are you to staying independent?
Well, I think that's why we're doing this process. We love doing what we're doing. listen, I'm happy to say if a stupid offer comes in a couple of years' time that is the best thing, we'll always act in the best interest of our shareholders. And I say stupid offer comes through, I think we'd have to seriously look at that. But that's not the intention. The intention is for us to continue doing what we love doing, which is to continue making great beer, continue growing this business, creating great spaces and doing what we love day to day. But yeah, of course, that option may come up at some point and we'd have to do what's best for the shareholders.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it would have to be stupid.
I think anybody else would do the same.
Yeah.
You mentioned before about a bit about the social responsibility of the business. Can you elaborate a little more on that ethos and what you're doing to uphold that?
Yeah, sure. So we've kind of got two key areas that we focus on in terms of social responsibility. And the first pillar of those areas that we started when we opened the brewery was around the community and supporting and giving back to the community wherever we could. One of the great examples of that is the relationship we have with the Newtown Jets, which is the local rugby league team. And we formed a really strong partnership with them where we made a beer for them, we support them on game day, and we give back proceeds from that beer back to the club. It's a really great community club, and they're all about supporting that sport. We also have the same relationships with other clubs and sporting clubs in the local area. Yep. And we also give support wherever we can into local schools for fundraising, for music, art, anything possible that comes across our desk. We don't ever blink an eye to it. We look and we go, yep, we want to support them.
You just opened ourselves up to about 8,000 emails for song requests then, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important for us to give back to our community that we feel really passionate about.
The other pillar is around reaching towards some sustainability goals in the business, and it's something that we've put in place in the last 6 months. So little secret that I'll share with you, and it's actually going to go out on the press release in the next 24, 48 hours, and you'll be able to see it, is we actually installed a pretty significant solar system, solar farm on our roof.
Wow.
It's has been operating since about April. We've now can happily say that about 1/3 of all the beer made of this brewery will be solar powered, which is massive. So we're really excited about bringing that news out. But obviously, you know, we wanted to make sure we did it at the right time. And then we're looking at other initiatives to look at trying removing, you know, different sustainability goals around how much waste we have in the business.
Yep.
How much food waste all goes through directly. All our spent grain goes to farmers. We make sure it gets to farmers and it's not dumped, and it's used again for feed. So we're continuously looking at areas that we can try and make improvements.
And there are key initiatives we have in some of the equipment, wishes we have with the investment as well, to look at bringing some sustainable packaging options in as well.
Yeah.
To just make ourselves a much greener company.
That's fantastic. No, it's important to know that the things you love and consume regularly are, you know, doing the most that they can to be better.
Yeah.
Speaking of being better, what sets you apart from the competition in this space? Obviously, there are plenty of craft breweries popping up. And how do you also intend to stay ahead of the curve?
That's deep.
Yeah, we're doing it already. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think we really love our community, and I say that community was also including our fellow Inner West brewers and our independent brewers. You know, for us, and I think some of the stuff that you guys may have seen is really raising awareness for ourselves as independent brewers, and making sure that we're getting a fair go, particularly at a government level. Probably seen some of the work that Mick and I have been doing as part of this campaign, speaking for government, government intervention into tap contracts, which we feel are completely unfair, into excise relief. And it's not just for us, it's for obviously our entire community. In terms of how we stand apart, you know, we still stand on those pillars that we have, our core pillars. That's what makes what Philter is so great. We know we've got great quality beer. We just need to get it to people. We needed to get it as far out as we can, which is again hoping it's for all that distribution. But really staying true to those core values is what I think will set ourselves apart. Continue. We don't want to lose sight of that, because I think that's where we might lose, our identity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Speaking a little bit about the products themselves now, how do you balance new product development with delivering your consistent range? And are you looking at making alcoholic-free beer at any point in the future?
Yes,
A couple of good questions.
they are. So maybe I'll talk about the balance. You can talk about the alc-free.
Yep.
So the balance is something that we strategize over very, very much, particularly because we are more traditional in our product portfolio approach and our product hierarchy. We do have a core range of beer that we offer is never out of stock most of the year round. So there may be a beer or two like our Old Ale, which is we sell more in the winter time than we do in the summertime, which that's natural that a darker beer will sell more. But ultimately, we really strategize around what that core range is and the price points, the ABV level, and what is unique for Philter to give to a customer. So that's very important. From a seasonal and a limited point of view, we do have quite a big brewery for like in terms of the market and Australian standards. So we have a brewery that if we decide to do a new beer, we're going to at least need to have to commit to 40 kegs, which is quite a lot. We can't do that all through the bar here. We like to have fresh beer, so we like to move it out, or about 250 cartons of beer. So that's quite a lot to put in. So we strategize with limiteds and special releases around doing the right kind of things. That's obviously brings into account seasonal trends, like bringing a stout or some variety of stout or porter out in the winter, or looking at a new hazy IPA, which may come out in the springtime with the right development and availability of new products. Or we might look at a strategic collaboration with a partner where we align with a brand. Generally, we align with brands outside of the beer industry because we like to partner with people that have a point of difference, and allow us to do something interesting for them, whether it be in another industry or music or art or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think everything we do here, because of that size thing as well, we really take an approach of everyone has a say in it. It's not just, okay, the brewers want to brew this. It's, okay, the sales guys need to get involved. We get Pete involved in what we think will actually sell. I think that's a really important thing. Do you think we can sell this beer? Because there are some great beers out there that I know I'd love to brew, but if they're not going to be commercial and we can't sell them, that's not really worth, putting the commitment in and having a beer that you have to, we're flogging at a cheap price. That's not what we want to do. So there's always a commercial element, but it is really about a collaboration. There are a couple of times where we do let the guys just go and have a bit of fun, but not as much as we can do just because of the size of the brew. Not alc. Yes, I love non-alc. I would like to do non-alc. We have a couple of challenges in this brewery on non-alc. Unfortunately, with non-alc, you do need certain bits of kit to ensure that you can stop any re-fermentation. And one of that being your pasteurizer. That's a pretty expensive bit of kit. I think they're up near about $450,000, $500,000
for a small one.
For a small one. So for us to be able to produce non-alc, we would have to invest in that bit of kit, and then also have a really strong plan to be able to meet some of the demands that I think that category is going, through some really high growth. So yes, we have thought about it. Yes, we have some designs and etc. on it, but if we're going to jump into something, we also want to make sure that we can A, fulfill market demand for it, and B, do a really good job at it and make sure that we're not doing something that we'd have to pull off the shelves because it starts to re-fermenting cans.
Yep.
Yeah. Sounds like you have all of the right people in place to assess all of the opportunities that come through. So that's great. Looking forward a little bit, we have a few questions here around expansion into other states, if you're wanting to expand your retail footprint into other places, and do you have a strategy for this and expansion of the whole business in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we gave you before was just highlights of that.
Yep.
We do have a long-term plan. But over the years, what we've learned is it's great to crystal ball, but you really got to look at the opportunities that are in front of you because so much changes in a short amount of time. But we do have a very clear plan on what we want to do in expanding the business, particularly in the retail, the hospitality segment that we can control in that Philter experience. I won't lie, yeah, we're looking interstate because we have a great business in places like Melbourne. We have a great business in places like Brisbane. But what do we really want to do? We want to make sure that our home state is really looked after and we're doing the best possible job here because it's our home state and the resonance of the brand is strong here and we have the quickest opportunity.
Yep.
The other piece on further afield, so, places like, it's not to say that we've never distributed to somewhere like WA and South Australia, we have. It's a long way to get beer there. And unpasteurized fresh beer like us doesn't really like to travel. So it's expensive to get the beer there.
You've got to send it cold freight, and it's a very expensive process to cold freight a pallet of beer to WA from Sydney.
And to be honest, having been to WA a few times, you got plenty of really good beer over there and in South Australia.
We'd love to do it.
We'd love to do it, and we want to get more there, and it's part of our plan. But since the last 12 to 18 months since COVID, it's been quite challenging. So it's part of that next 1 to 2 year plan to really look at those markets again.
No, that's a fantastic answer. Thank you. Now, we have quite a number of questions here regarding minimum and maximum targets for the offer, how much equity you're looking to give away, what's the return on investment. So I might jump in and just handle these questions for you and let everyone know a little bit more about the stage of the process that we're in. So right now, we're still in the expression of interest. Now, Philter Brewing's been completely overwhelmed with the response that they've seen so far, which has been amazing. So this is essentially the stage where these guys are assessing the market interest in their offer. So for everyone listening, the full terms of the offer, the valuation, the share price, investors in the business, last 12 months of financial information will all be in the offer document. It's a very long and wonderful detailed document about Philter Brewing and their investment offer. So that will be available to all potential investors when the investment offer goes live in the coming weeks. So also to keep in mind there, when the offer does go live, it will be open for 2 days roughly to start with in early access, so only available to those that have expressed interest, and then it'll open to the general public as well. In terms of exits, like potential exits and future projections, I'll just jump in and cover that as well. So I'll just let you know a little bit about what this asset class is. So as you are investing through an equity crowdfunding platform, you are buying shares in Philter. You're buying fully owned ordinary shares in either private or publicly unlisted company. Now, these shares are considered illiquid, so they can't easily be transferred or sold. But there are numerous circumstances where it may event in a liquidity, there may be a liquidity event, such as trade of the company, listing on the ASX, private equity investment in the company, etc. So you'll have to make that decision based off the information provided in the offer document when that is live. And we also have a number of questions about the investors themselves. Now, guys, I know the community is kind of at the heart of everything that you do. How are you looking at engaging investors post-raise? And yeah, what's the plan there?
Post-raise. So once our investors come on board?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So we'll be engaging with investors by basically communicating with you guys all the time and as much as we can. There will be constant updates as a part of our the offer. There will be certain levels of offer where there'll be more.
We're looking at some types of reward structures. Essentially, to our investors. Yeah, we're just still finalising those details. It will be
in the offer document.
So, yeah, in the offer document.
So that we will also be communicating on an annual basis what our budget, the same way you would with a stock listed company, what our budget and what our financial expectations are, and obviously our results in a normal way. So you'll have access to that information, and in general, you'll have access to come and chat and hang out and have a beer with us.
Yeah, and as a shareholder in the business, you know, you're still, you know, for major decisions that we make in the business, you've got the vote, right? You know, you are a shareholder of our business, so you will be engaged in those, you know, major decisions that require full shareholder votes.
Fantastic. And you mentioned a little bit about rewards and stuff. Is that something that you're intending on having for your investors?
Yes, definitely. We are looking at different levels of, you know, things that we can offer you guys so that you know, get some money off of the bar or etc. We're just looking at finalising those details to share with you guys with the offer document. But yeah, definitely looking at, you know, things that, you know,
entice people to join.
Yeah, make you feel better than other people.
We just had one more question here. Because you mentioned it was hard and expensive to ship fresh beer to WA. How do you plan to export internationally if this is an issue within Australia?
Really good question. The exploration we've done on this is high level at this point. The fortunate thing about shipping sea freight to international markets is that the cost to have cold freight versus ambient freight is not much different. While the cost within Australia is a lot different, funnily enough. So the restrictions around that the barriers around that aren't as high as what we might expect. And also the opportunity is also you obviously have to look at a distributor rate to get it in the market. So you will sacrifice a bit more on price to be competitive, but ultimately those markets are very excited. The ones we've looked at really excited for international beer. And it's a great opportunity to expand the beer into those territories. So
there's also opportunities as well with export, because there is two ways. You can obviously send out beer, but there's also opportunities to look at brewing under license in different countries.
Yeah.
And that's also a really viable option, you know, for certain countries. Obviously, a lot of our international brands that we have in this country, actually most of them, bar Corona, are brewed here under license by, you know, the multinationals. So there are also options that we can look at for the right partners, or if it's the right proposition for someone else to, you know, to brew our beer overseas, and you look at
a licensing deal or a distribution
deals.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Are there any kind of brand collaborations or anything? If you're dreaming, like what would be an ideal brand collaboration for you?
On the stage, you'd probably want to have a crack at, mate.
Yeah, look, there's an interesting question. Brand collaborations. I had a meeting with quite a well-known creative director. This many years ago, creative director of one of the big brands in the world. I'm not going to name it, but if you think of all the top brands that collaborate, they're one of them. And he said to me, and he gave me advice that if you're ever going to collaborate with a brand, you got to make sure that it looks legit to the people out there. So that it needs to look like this. It needs to look like two guys at the bar, not him, but two guys at the bar who are having a good time, and they look like they should partner together. So that's what collaborations are about. So
good synergies between the two.
Really great synergies, and what makes sense for the time. You know, beer is one of those categories which really partners up well with other beer brands and also with other brands, whether it be musicians or artists or fashion brands. Like there's so many options, but I'm not going to actually identify one because I don't want to give our secrets away.
Somewhere in the Bahamas where I need to go and do a lot of product testing and experience and spent a lot of time there developing the strategy. That's I'll commit to that.
Of course. Oh, and I've got one final question for you here. Obviously, on this webinar tonight, we had hundreds of Philter lovers. But for those that may not have tried Philter before or are wanting to now go and pick some up, what would you recommend for someone to try as their first Philter beer?
I definitely recommend trying the XBA. I think as part of becoming or jumping online, you do get a discount voucher to our online store. So you can definitely jump on there, put your online, I think it was 25%.
20%.
20%. There you go. I go too much right. 20%. But we've also got some really good packs on there. We've got like some hoppy packs, etc., where you can get a couple of different.
Yeah, there's a pack called the Hoppy Multi Pack, which you get some of the XBA, award-winning XBA, some of our award-winning Hazy Pale, award-winning Red Ale. No, I'm just kidding. Red Ale and some of our darker beers.
So they're great if you just want to have a crack. But definitely, listen, if you were to, your first beer that you want to have try a Philter, you have to try our XBA. If you're not a fruity type of drinker and you don't like those tropical flavors, definitely jump into the Super Cool Lager because it's an absolute cracker, really easy drinking, rice-based lager, and I think that's just a sensational, easy drinking beer for those hot summer days.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now everybody can walk away and go and pick up some whatever beer they like. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Nick and Steph, for such an awesome presentation. And thank you so much to everybody for joining this evening's Q&A webinar. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this webinar will be sent around to everybody who registered, just in case anyone missed out. Feel free to share that with your friends and family or any other beer lovers that you know. So the Expression of Interest campaign for Philter is live for another week and a half, and then that will close and we'll be opening the offer on the 24th of October. And as I mentioned, that will be in early access, or what we consider private. So it's only open to those that have expressed interest. And hey, we have seen companies sell out during this phase. So if you're wanting to own a slice of Philter, make sure you've got your expression of interest in before they go live. And as I mentioned, the offer document, the subscription agreement, and the constitution will all be live when the investment offer is as well. So thank you so much again, Mick and Steph, and everyone for joining tonight. Thanks and goodbye.
Thanks everyone.
Kevin.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to us, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.